Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
I'm here to save the day. I'm here to save the day.
Soon I will be invincible. Because comics.
Welcome to Because Comics. This is episode 51. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host, the ceremonious Mike Christensen.
That's true. That's a word that describes me. I am quite ceremonious.
Yeah, I mean, do you bring all of this party gear wherever you go?
I sort of like to think of this as my second skin.
Ooh.
Particularly the gossamer armor.
Yeah, it's very nice.
The porcelain helmet, the American Girl dolls. I think it's all sort of it all sort of lends itself.
I was going to ask you about the American Girl dolls.
I wish you wouldn't.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay.
I kind of
now regret it.
Pages that I need to follow up on. Also, the candelabra, why is that there? Is that part of your whole ceremonial?
He's here to make food.
The candelabra is alive?
Do you not hear him sing? Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
Mike. You know what? You said that they let you out. Mike, what's on your wrist?
I'm fine. I'll just take the meds if I feel depressed.
Well, before we take you back, Mike, what could have put you in such a state?
Oh, really? We're doing this?
Unrelated, we saw Batman v Superman this past weekend.
Yeah, if people follow me on social media, they know.
Yeah.
They know how I feel.
And you know, in honor of Batman v Superman,
In response?
You know, in the world that we are in now, where Batman and Superman are both talked about characters currently, we both decided to do throwback pulls. We typically do our pull lists based on recent comics that you can pick up that are actively rolling out new issues each week. But we decided,
or each month.
And we decided, you know what, let's do a throwback and talk about a series of issues and comics that we liked way back in the day.
It's a shame because I was planning to do a throwback poll maybe for our 2-year anniversary, so I have to figure out something else for that.
But this seemed, I mean, look, Batman and Superman are two of the biggest superhero comic icons ever.
Sure.
Right? And they have a big movie out right now. So, I mean, it makes sense to talk about them, right?
Yeah, I agree. And Jay, what would you like us to check out? Go to Comixology or Amazon or our local comic shop and find.
Oh, yeah. So, guys, I highly, highly recommend DC's Superman Birthright.
For sure.
It's written by Mark Waid, who I love, and drawn by Lynil Yu, who I also love.
It's fantastic.
And this is a 12-issue arc. It was done, God, I don't know the year, but it was done
2003 to 2004.
Okay, great. 2003 to 2004, it's amazing. It's basically, at the time, DC kind of wanted to do a redo of Superman's origin, and they tasked Mark Waid with doing this. And I think he did an amazing job of taking what we know of Superman and kind of putting some new and interesting twists on it. And honestly, Mark Waid's aim for this was to talk more about Clark Kent. I think it was a great article I read somewhere recently where it was like, man, why is Superman, people are kind of bummed on Superman? And it's like, well, more and more we're taking Clark Kent out of Superman. And Clark Kent is a great way to see and focus on Superman because he's relatable. It's how we see ourselves and how we relate ourselves and how Superman relates himself to humanity.
Yeah.
So just to give some touch points of this comic, because I haven't talked about it at all, but look, it's basically, it starts with his origin. You don't see him as a baby or anything like that. Right away, Mark Waid dives in from, hey, we launch from space, we land on Earth, boom, now we're going to follow him when he's in his 20s, basically, when he's left home and he's out exploring the world as a young developing journalist. And actually it opens with a really great scene with Clark in Africa trying to get a kind of an expose or an interview with one of like these head tribes leaders of a rivaling faction with somebody in Africa, and there's a lot of political unrest. And it's really amazing because it puts Clark in these really difficult positions. He hasn't really figured out who he is yet, but we get to see him start to become and kind of tap into what he should be doing and how he should be doing it. And one of the most beautiful things, and I won't talk about every piece of this comic, again, it's 12 issues, and there's a lot in each of these that examine his life leading up to being Superman and his first big struggle as Superman.
And it doesn't end with him becoming Superman.
It doesn't end. He becomes Superman like pretty halfway through the comic.
Yeah.
But it's more about like really the solidifying of Superman and how Clark Kent and Superman work together in life. And there's two big things that I really love about this comic that are a great takeaway that I feel like we don't see as much. One of them is there's a really great play in the first issue of why Superman doesn't kill. He doesn't say it outright like, this is why I don't kill. But it's a really nice, subtle reasoning behind it. And there's early on when Clark is in Africa and he's flying around, and there's these great scenes of him swooping through the sky and in the clouds and through animals, because Superman can fly, and that's amazing, and he's having a
flying
great time
alongside
doing
like a pack of zebras.
And you see
Really
him like
cool.
looking at these animals, and he talks about how, because Superman has like crazy vision, he can see radio waves and X-rays and all this kind of stuff, and he talks about how things with life, animals, creatures, people, gives off this amazing like kind of emanating radiation, like a kaleidoscope of like colors and light that's so beautiful that for Superman, when that light is gone, when something dies, the absence of it is so soul crushing to him that it physically upsets him. And you really feel it, and how they build this talking point he has into the issue and how it grows into a specific event. It's really paid off really nicely. But it really does nail it, not only for Clark Kent, but it really nails it for the readers, why this is such a big sticking point for Superman. The second thing that I think this comic and this run does really well is it shows the impact of the Kents on Superman's life, which to me has always been one of my favorite things about Superman. Is he's not a superhero motivated by my parents died, whether it was in an alley or at sea or wherever. Like,
Did you make a Philip Fathom
I
reference?
did make
My
a
parents
Philip Fathom
died
reference.
at sea.
My parents died at sea. Guys, listen to Thrilling Adventure. It's great.
It's great.
But Superman is motivated to be Superman because he was raised by human parents, by earthly parents, by American parents in certain ways. And it's something that is often very quickly thrown off by like touching on heavily on Superman as an alien. You're an alien. And this comic very much talks and shows how much his parents have such a great touch point on who Superman is and what makes him the man he is. And they are a positive influences in his life. They're not a negative or fearful influence. And it's amazing. There's even a scene with Pa Kent and Clark in their home. And Pa Kent is getting a little upset and worried that his son is finally going out into the world and going to kind of show them who he is. He's Superman. And even though his father is encouraging, he still has a little bit of that fear in him. Not crippling, terrible fear like might be seen in other places, but he's a little worried about his son, and he doesn't really know how to express it. And it kind of comes to this exploding point. And there's a really great line of dialogue where Superman at night overhears his father saying like he might not be one of us, or he's not one of us, to Ma Kent, and it really hurts him. And he talks to Pa Kent, and he pulls him aside, and he says, and he's like, well, no, you're not really. And he goes, oh, really? I'm not like you? Not like a man who left home when he was 18 to find his place in the world, who was strong enough to figure out who he was rather than let others decide that for him? Where do you think I got that courage to do the same thing? And it's a really great emotional scene, and really shows why Pa Kent, why Ma Kent, why they're so important to Superman.
And shows them as flawed.
Yeah.
It shows them as flawed but still good, which is a thing that lacks from the Kents in a lot of adaptations where, at best, they tend to be, oh, I'm going to go home, talk about my problems, and have some pie.
Yeah.
Maybe a beer.
But not only that, it reflects, because it shows, especially in that scene, it shows that Superman isn't just directed by that.
Yeah.
He isn't just directed by what they tell him. He takes what they've taught him, and he can teach back. The power that is Superman is the hope, and to in so many ways make people better and encourage them by being around them. So it's great how it's portrayed. And guys, I highly recommend Superman Birthright. It's amazing, and a great origin and a great introduction of their version of Lex Luthor, which is awesome. So please check it out, Superman Birthright. Mike, what is your pull?
My pull is a classic, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns.
Ooh, that is a classic.
And I should preface, a lot of times, and I hear it on a lot of comics podcasts or, articles or whatever, people talk about this as the comic that everyone's read, probably. And I don't want to make that assumption, because I'm not sure that everyone has read it.
And I don't think so either.
I didn't read it until pretty recently, because it's older than I am, but it's written and drawn by Frank Miller, and inked by Klaus Janson and colored by Lynn Varley. And it's a masterpiece. I mean, it's 4 issues. It's this sort of masterpiece that came out almost exactly the same time as Watchmen, and plays on a lot of the same fears at the time, a lot of the same fears of nuclear war, and a lot of the questions of what is a hero and what does it mean. And in a weird way, it's funny to think about it now, because all of our Batman stuff, all of our comics, all of our movies, all of our cartoons are dark and brooding. But this was much more of a response to the camp Batman.
Really?
It was, in a way, because he thinks of that. Frank Miller was sort of addressing that in a way, in sort of taking that version of the character from the 60s, aging him up to the 80s, and making him sort of this sullen, brooding figure.
Right.
But I get ahead of myself. This is about this is actually a huge influence on Dawn of Justice, this comic.
Yeah,
it's probably
Batman v Superman.
The number one influence on that movie, to the point where some scenes are literally lifted shot for shot, in the way that that Zack Snyder can do, because that's the kind of director he is. He does the very visual, stylistic stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just a story about, Bruce Wayne at this point is retired. He doesn't Batman anymore, and he's older, and he's kind of broken, and he doesn't know what to do with his life, and he's kind of hoping for just a good death. He's like doing like racing in like Formula One kind of things. It's not Formula One, but I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's doing races and like about to burn out and die. And he's like, no, this isn't a good enough death. Like, that's how the comic opens. And he evacuates the car just in time.
I love the idea that he's had such an exciting life that he needs to have a pretty awesome death if he's going to die.
But it's also this sort of point of depression for him because he's so sort of broken down. He doesn't have anything to live for. And then the streets are getting worse and the city's getting worse. And at this point, he's lost a Robin. He's lost Jason by this point. But he's also like, he's just kind of feeling this unrest beneath him, and it drives him to get back into the costume. It's also a big influence on The Dark Knight Rises, because that whole formula of him being retired for a few years and then coming out of retirement and a couple of rookie cops being like, oh my gosh, Batman's back. That's directly, again, the substance of Dark Knight Returns is pretty present in that movie. And it's an interesting story. It does involve him clashing against Superman. That whole fight is a big part of it. It is what the story's building towards for a while, but it is not a Superman story. And the problem is that if you try to make this a Superman story, it doesn't work because Superman doesn't do anything in this story. Superman, if you put him into this story, has very little to do.
Really?
Interestingly enough.
Is it almost like he's reacting to stuff and not making any choices?
Yeah, it is a lot like that.
Weird.
Because in this comic, he is just sort of a government stooge, getting bad advice and doing dumb things for dumb reasons. It's not a pessimistic story, which you might forget. Some people might forget, but it's actually a story about hope. It is about, like, at the end of, not a spoiler, but like towards the end of the comic, he is rallying people to help themselves and to help the city, which is, again, that was a big influence on Dark Knight Rises, is, him just trying to get Gotham to repair itself, basically. And it's clear that they definitely play Batman as a pathological figure in the comic, because that's a huge part of how Frank Miller writes this version of Batman very specifically. But it's also like he fights crime at the beginning, but even in the first issue, there is sympathy towards some of his villains, like Two-Face, who is clearly having a similar emotional breakdown, despite having his face fixed. Clearly, he thinks it is matching the other way. He looks in the mirror and he sees himself broken in both sides.
Wow.
And Batman's like, I feel you, man. I know what you're going through right now. I know what you mean. That's another thing. There are weird dream sequences in here, but it's not so weird. Like,
it's not super weird?
It's not super weird because, like...
Are they strong enough that he can see the future in his dreams?
Nope.
That's interesting.
It's also interesting that Batman takes one life in the comic. There is a moment where someone says, if you back off, I'm going to kill this person. You better believe me. And Batman says, I believe you. And he shoots that person and they die. And it is one scene. I pointed this out on Tumblr and I got called out for it, but I maintain my point because at the end of the comic, he breaks a rifle in half and says, this is the weapon of the enemy. Because, guys, I don't think Batman should use guns, and I don't like it when he does. And I don't think he should kill people, and I don't like it when he does. In fact, in this comic, he is given the chance to kill the Joker, and you know what?
He doesn't.
It's almost like he learns something and has some sort of an arc.
That's so weird.
It's interesting that I would want that from my stories.
It's also weird that probably everyone's favorite Batman movie has that specific undertone running through it as well.
Yeah, that's true. The whole idea that maybe you shouldn't kill people. People like that story.
People like
maybe
that story.
More people should use that for their stories.
It's weird that you would like a hero having to make a hard decision.
And not kill people. Yeah. Weird. Also, there is some sensationalism of violence a little bit, but it's also done by the media. And that's actually a running gag. I mean, there's the opening, if you just read it panel for panel, it feels kind of disjointed, like there's a whole bunch of stories cut together for no reason. But it turns out they're all building towards the same conclusion, and none of the stories fall off and drop off into randomness that doesn't matter. It's all intercut stories in between Batman going through this stuff and Superman, and between the media kind of making a big deal of who Batman is and what his return is, and the paranoia over Batman, which makes sense because he's a weird killer person, except he's not a weird killer person. He's a nice guy who doesn't kill people. Anyway, there's a lot of socio-political satire in this, especially of the 80s, to the point where they really emphasize the heightening of violence in Gotham as sensationalism in media, which, like, happened in our culture. Like, that definitely is the way our world is.
Yeah.
In a really upsetting, like, when you go back and read it, you're like, oh, this was satire and it happened like this.
Yeah.
Although it's also a satire of its own time. I think it was happening at the time. And Ronald Reagan features heavily into this comic, and he's always wearing like Stars and Stripes blazers.
That's amazing.
So like, I don't know if people remember that, but he's very much like a caricature of himself. And the Joker is genuinely creepy. And anyway, also Batman gets framed for something that he didn't do. But it's also like not the only reason he and Superman fight. Like it's actually like there's an actual ideological difference between them that can't be resolved by finishing a sentence. It's actually like a meaningful like conflict between them. And also Batman doesn't go there with the intention of killing Superman. He's actually, his hope is only to survive the fight until a specific thing can happen. And he's not even sure if that will happen because he's not sure how far gone Superman is. Because they used to be friends a long time ago.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to quote the theme song for Veronica Mars just then, but I did. Anyway, guys, you should read Batman The Dark Knight Returns. It's pretty good. Turns out that Frank Miller back then was real good at comics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And speaking of...
That's going to be taking us into our main segment. Mike, kick things off.
Daredevil, Child's Play, The Good Guys Wear Red. We're flashing back to before Frank Miller worked on Batman. He kind of got that job because he made Daredevil cool.
Ooh.
And turns out there's a really cool Daredevil show on TV right now.
Yeah, there is.
On not TV. I mean, my TV, because my Netflix is hooked up to that. But on Netflix, there's a really cool Daredevil comic.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's on TV. That's what TV is now.
Yeah, it works.
It's Netflix.
And this is a really good Daredevil comic. Here we go. Daredevil number 183 to 184. In 1982. This is written by Roger McKensie and Frank Miller, pencils by Frank Miller, and inks and colors by Klaus Janson. Once again, a lot of the same people as Dark Knight Returns. 183 opens with Matt Murdock visiting a private Catholic school when a 12-year-old girl, Mary Elizabeth O'Kern, starts freaking out in the middle of class. She feels like there's snakes crawling beneath her skin.
Ooh.
She starts thrashing and foaming at the mouth. She ends up toppling out the window. Matt runs into a supply closet, changes into Daredevil, and runs outside. Obviously, he doesn't have time to catch her because it's like a 2-story drop.
Yeah.
There was no way he could have caught her.
He's not Superman.
Right. But he can get her help, and he knows that an ambulance could be 15 minutes away. But the coach, who's outside with his class, because it's the middle of the day, says there's no way she's going to make it 15 minutes.
Oh, no.
So Daredevil tells the coach Donahue, call the hospital, prep for surgery, and he just picks up the girl and runs. And as he runs, we get a little reminder like, my powers, because that's how comics work.
It's a refresher. Oh, yeah. I bet I could make that corner because of my super hearing.
No, it's this. He says sometimes he thinks how glad he is to be rid of his sight and have advanced senses, but not right now. Because he can feel her shattered ribs and her crushed vertebrae. He can hear her heart slowing.
Oh.
He gets her into surgery, but she dies on the operating table.
Wow.
And the doctor says, we might have had more time. We might have had a few more minutes if not for the drugs. Turns out she was on angel dust.
What?
The doctor,
how old is the kid?
12.
Wow.
The doctor's been seeing these symptoms more and more. He says, last week we treated a 14-year-old boy who saw something so horrible during his first trip, he gouged his eyes out with his own hands. He says, can you imagine how tragic it must be to live the rest of your life totally blind? Daredevil says, yes. What can I do to help? And we learn that the problem with angel dust, aka PCP, crystal, rocket fuel, and hog, is that it's easy to make and inexpensive to buy. It can be taken like any way. It can be snorted or injected. Again, I don't know if any of this is true. I've never taken drugs, but like I bet Frank Miller did research. I don't.
I hope he didn't do too much research.
No, but like I know that when they did a drug story in Spider-Man, they were just like pills, because like the understanding of drugs in comics has always been a little shaky.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mary Elizabeth's brother Billy is there, and he's in tears and he's angry as hell. He says this isn't fair. How can Mary be dead when the two bums who killed her are alive and pushing their crap on the streets? Well, I know who they are, and you can tell the Hogman and his slimy partner that when I find them, I'm going to blow their brains out.
Well, that's pretty direct.
Pretty definitive.
Yeah.
Daredevil tries to tell Billy not to take the law into his own hands.
How old is Billy?
Not that much different in age.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kids are hardcore in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Daredevil tries to tell Billy not to take the law into his own hands, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. But Billy, listen to me. A man dressed in a full devil costume.
I am a vigilante. Don't take the law into your own hands.
Don't take the law into your own hands.
Anyway, Billy runs away. Billy goes home, and while his parents are bickering about whatever, it's not even made clear whether they know what's happened or whether it's stopped their bickering. That's like, it's the sad state of affairs. He just goes in, takes his dad's gun, and leaves. Meanwhile, Daredevil throws some street clothes on over his costume. He looks ridiculous. He's got like a little pork pie hat over his mask.
Over his horns?
Yeah. Anyway, he learns the Hogman's partner is someone named Flapper, or nickname Flapper. It's not his given name, I don't think.
I would hope not.
We learn from Flapper's inner monologue, his thought process, that he skims a little bit off the cut. But everyone assumes he and Hogman are as tight as brothers, which is how he gets away with it. Daredevil runs into some angel dust dealers who get in a bit of a scuffle with him, but then Frank Castle, the Punisher, shows up.
Whoa!
And intervenes. This is the first time Daredevil and the Punisher have ever met.
It's almost like you tied that to what's happening in the show right now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's so weird.
We're clever.
Exciting!
Anyway, he realizes this man is a very well-trained killer.
Yes.
And can't let him do what he's clearly about to do.
Oh.
But before they fight, Flapper is walking by because he's walking home and is shot by someone from one of the roofs. Daredevil runs up the roof and he finds Billy holding a smoking gun.
Oh.
But he says he just fired over Flapper's head. He couldn't bring himself to do it.
Good for you, Billy.
So we cut to Billy in court for his pre-trial. Again,
oh, no.
This is probably not how court works. I don't know if you go to the judge in his, anyway.
In his chambers.
Yeah, well, it's not in his chambers. It's in, like, the courtroom. But, like, it's just him and the prosecution and Billy and Coach Donahue. Because, again, Billy's parents not having a major role in his life right now.
Mike, I thought you went to court a lot as a 13-year-old kid. Didn't you do a lot of hard crimes, Mike, when you were younger?
I did shoot someone who was a dealer.
Ah, that's right. You were robbing for a while. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, Matt Murdock arrives to defend Billy.
Oh.
Because they want to charge him as an adult, because that is an adult-style crime.
Just, it works so well to have your superhero also be a lawyer. It makes for, kind of complete stories when it comes to crime.
It's true. Daredevil drops by Ben Urich's office. Ben Urich, who works for the Daily Bugle, I believe.
He's a reporter.
He's a reporter. And at this point, Ben Urich does know Matt Murdock's identity.
He does?
He keeps it tight-lipped, but I didn't realize it happened this long ago.
I didn't
realize it happened in the 80s, but
Wow.
it did. Although I think it's relatively recent, because Daredevil asks for info on the Punisher. He says, Matt, what are you doing? Shh, don't call me Matt here. Please don't do that.
Oh, is he still in the
He's still in the
baseball
Daredevil
hat and
costume.
the Daredevil costume?
No, he's not in the baseball cap.
Oh, he's just in his Daredevil outfit.
He's just dressed as Daredevil. It's been a day.
Okay.
But anyway, we find out who the Punisher is, that he's a trained killer who goes after criminals, and he usually uses guns, but hey, when he was in prison recently, he killed 12 people. He didn't have a gun there, so he's just a dangerous man.
Yeah, clearly.
Daredevil goes back to the crime scene, and he finds a bullet casing on a nearby rooftop. But it's from a bad angle. It's in between two ledges. And the shooter could have climbed onto one of those ledges to get a better shot, unless for some reason he couldn't climb it. Come back to that later, because he hears the Punisher beating up a criminal on an adjacent roof, demanding info on the Hogman. Daredevil breaks up the fight, and the Punisher says, look, if we must fight, let it be as allies. Together we could terrorize the underworld, eliminate the enemy we share. And Daredevil says, whether you kill innocents or criminals, it's still murder. And that makes us enemies, Punisher.
Hey, he's not wrong.
Yep. Punisher shoots Daredevil in the stomach.
Oh, no.
With a tranquilizer gun.
Okay, there we go. I was going to say, that went upside down real fast.
Then he continues to beat the hell out of the gray-haired criminal. That guy collapses.
Is it Silvermane?
No, it's just an old guy.
I just decided to throw some
And
random.
now his heart has stopped.
Oh, no.
So Punisher just walks away because,
he killed a guy, which is what he does.
That's his thing. And Dee Dee hears the heart stop, and he pumps the man's chest, and the heart starts beating again, and the crook mutters, Papa's at Papa's. Finally answering that question of, where is the Hogman? Hogman, who, of course, is the dealer
Of all
responsible,
that angel dust.
Exactly. Or the man in charge of all this whole process. Daredevil, of course, gets this old man at the hospital, and then he drops by Papa's restaurant, finds the Hogman. As the name suggests, he doesn't exactly look like he'd be capable of climbing up a ledge.
What a surprise.
I mean, Hogman also because, the street name for the drug is Hog, but also Hogman because he's a little round.
Because the guy he's dedicated to the art of supervillainy, Mike. He knows.
Daredevil thinks Hogman found out Flapper was skimming off the top. So Hogman tells his friends, you know what, I don't need to take this from you. I got my friends here. And they're all like, oh, we don't see anyone Hogman. The only hero I see here is my sandwich. And they just sit there while Daredevil just drags Hogman away to jail.
Wow.
They say nothing at all.
Whoa, that's a good crew?
I know. It's just like, what a weird moment where the cops or the criminals are like, no, I'm not getting involved in this. I don't want to. No, I'm going to make do.
Is this a few years into Daredevil's run where they're just like, I'm not going to fight that guy?
I guess. I mean, obviously it's a few years into Daredevil, but like it's still weird. You never see this now.
That's true, yeah. Almost every henchman just blindly goes into fighting.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit more grounded. It's like, yeah, this guy like beats up everybody. Supervillains, Kingpin's gone, he's in jail. Like, I'm not gonna fight this guy. There's like 3 of us.
There are 3 of them.
Nice, pulled that out of my ass.
At court in Billy's trial, a witness, the old man the Punisher nearly killed, says he saw Billy fire the shot into the air, not towards the ground, not a flapper.
Ah.
He did see Hogman with the rifle, though. Billy's released, and they arrest Hogman, whose name is Peter Grunter. Again, his name is not Hogman, but
Peter Grunter?
pretty close.
I'm pretty almost there.
They arrest him, but he's shouting that he's innocent. And Matt hears his heartbeat
And it's
steady.
ooh.
He doesn't skip a beat. He's not lying.
Which, like, let me just call out. I've said this before, that Daredevil's, like, one of my favorite superheroes. And, like, in so many ways, it goes back and forth between him and Batman. But there's something unique about Daredevil comics and the character, because he can do this kind of investigative stuff that you can't get from other heroes, and he can do it naturally because of his powers, which is so great.
Yeah, when Bruce Wayne shows up to investigate something, it's conspicuous.
Yeah.
Or he has to go undercover.
Exactly.
When Matt Murdock, like, he is dealing with the same problems Daredevil is dealing with. It just
Exactly.
kind of makes sense. Matt Murdock agrees to represent Hogman. Or, sorry, Peter Grunter. Probably not Hogman.
His name was formerly Peter Oinker, but he changed it to Peter Grunter.
And the Punisher, who's, deadlifting weights in full costume, as one does,
Of course.
hears about this on the news.
I'm sure the Punisher does not think about his wardrobe ever.
I think that's a fair point. Meanwhile, Matt and his girlfriend, Heather Glenn, have a bit of an argument. She's trying to regain control of her family's company, Glenn Industries, but he thinks she's being unrealistic. She doesn't have the business skills. She hasn't been training for this. She just inherited it. She should cut herself a stipend and resign. Heather says she needs something to give her life purpose, and he proposes a different option.
Why not run an entire company?
He proposes.
What?
He asks her to marry him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, she doesn't know very much about Daredevil comics and doesn't know that that's a very bad idea.
184.
That's like winning the opposite of the lottery, right?
That's true.
I think marrying and or dating Daredevil is like the opposite.
Never
of
a
that.
good idea. 183 was called Child's Play. 184 is called Good Guys Wear Red. At night, Hogman is enjoying dinner at a restaurant, bragging about how Murdoch's going to get him off because he's a great lawyer. And
Hey, that's some really nice advertising.
It
for him.
is.
That's some groundswell word-of-mouth advertising, my
what
friend.
he doesn't know, so the Punisher is across the street with a sniper rifle.
Too
Getting
bad.
ready. But Daredevil charges in and, attacks him before he can take the shot. Punisher manages to shoot at him, shoots a chimney, which topples down on Daredevil, kind of taking him out of the fight. And then,
Right. A large brick chimney will do that.
yeah, but then Punisher bugs out, which is a little interesting. You probably wouldn't see that today, but it's early days of Punisher still. He's going to take a shot later. At Glenn Industries, Heather's in the middle of signing a bunch of paperwork, doing head of the company stuff. And her advisor, Mr. Spindle, says, if you step down, you don't have to do all this. You just have to sign like one more set of paperwork. And she's like, oh, you and Matt both. And, she hasn't even agreed to marry Matt or not.
Oh,
She's
wow.
still not sure what to do. While she's going through this paperwork, she's like, and I don't even know what half the stuff is. What's Atrius Plastics? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's some like remote account. It's like specialty insulation or something. It really doesn't matter. Just keep signing things. And she does. And he's like, yeah, there's a good girl. Kind of under his breath, which I think is like glaringly overt and at the very least sexist and misogynistic.
Yeah. By the way, I was going to call this out. I let it go, but like Mr. Spindle, like that's the creepiest, like, that's a very creepy name.
Yeah, it is.
Which I was not wrong about. So there we go.
He's a little creepy. In court, Matt calls Peter Hogman Grunter a scapegoat for the prosecution. He's not guilty of the crime accused. Yes, career criminal, can't deny that. But he is accused of this crime, and he is innocent because they just want someone...
They want to put a name to the crime.
Exactly. And he tells the jury, he will prove that the true killer is a man who masquerades as a solid, respectable citizen and uses his position to administer narcotics to children. In the audience, Coach Donahue, who, by the way, walks with a cane, so wouldn't be very good at climbing ledges, looks pretty nervous about what's happening. And Billy, who's there, he's like, hero worships the coach in general. He's there, like, right next to him and says, what's wrong, coach? And coach says, nothing. Nothing's wrong. Matt's working late at night, surprising no one, and he's waiting for an important call. He ran a bluff in court. He has no evidence that it's the coach.
I mean, I do like that. I mean, Matt plays full court press at all times.
Yeah, but he's waiting for this panic call from the coach to confirm his theory. The phone rings. but it's Heather. And we see her, standing at a payphone. She's at night. She's still considering his offer. She just can't decide. She's not sure what to do. She asks to come over, but at that point, the line rings. He says, look, can I put you on hold real quick? And, picks up the other line, and we stay with Heather while we're intercut with Matt.
Okay.
So Matt is talking to the coach. It's Coach Donahue, and he says, yes, I know exactly what you've been doing. You've been pushing angel dust on kids. Imagine how Billy would feel. He's so devoted to you, but his sister just overdosed. You certainly had motive to shoot Flapper. And Coach Donahue wants to meet Matt at the gym in 1 hour. Matt agrees. Meanwhile, Heather, annoyed that she's been put on hold she wants to talk things out with him. She's a little sad. She hangs up, and when Matt goes back to that line, we just see the payphone. She's walked away by this point.
Oh.
But we see it happen. Like, we actually see her looking down at the phone, and it's in silhouette, but like even that, Frank Miller does an excellent job. You can tell there's sadness there.
Yeah.
And it's really...
I mean, hey, if you want to see Silhouette by Frank Miller, there's an entire comic run called Sin City.
He's good at silhouettes. That's fair.
Yeah.
Very good point. Matt shows up at the gym late at night, the gym on the school, which I guess that feels not legal. He says that he has a contact, Smitty, who confirmed Donahue was the Hogman's dealer at the school. And apparently Donahue wasn't happy with his cut. Perhaps unhappy enough to shoot Hogman's partner, frame Hogman for it. Well, that would leave the whole operation open for him to take over. That's when
we almost got King Dodgeball.
That's
that
when the
epic.
coach attacks, deranged and frothing at the mouth.
Oh, no.
Angel dust.
Oh.
Matt dodges out of the way. He has to fight this, but this guy who is in good shape, by the way. He is like a well-built guy. Like maybe he needs a cane to walk, but he does not need that to beat the hell out of Matt. But Matt's doing pretty well.
Also, he's got that angel dust strength.
That's true. I mean, and he says at this point, he realizes Coach Donahue must be having a whack attack.
Good.
1982.
1982, everybody.
Matt didn't figure the coach for a user. And even if he is, why take them now when he needs his wits?
Right.
Someone did this to Donahue.
I'm going to have a very important, life-altering meeting. I should probably take as much angel dust as I possibly can.
Just get frothing eyes.
Just get insane.
So he has to treat the coach like another victim. Because someone did this to him. And he subdues Donahue and he calls an ambulance. Meanwhile, Hogman visits that witness who identified him. That witness whose supply ran out and he's been kind of jonesing for 3 days and he needs it badly. And Hogman says, look, I'll give it to you if you change the story. If you just go there and you say, I lied or something like that. Just get me off the hook. And the guy agrees and Hogman gives him a needle. The guy takes a hit. And Hogman and his buddy, he's got like a henchman there with him. And his henchman says, looks happy. Dead too. And Hogman says, gee, did I forget to cut the smack as usual and feed him the pure stuff? Poor Marky.
Oh, man.
So that guy doesn't make his court date. The prosecution's minus a pretty key witness, the only witness, so the case is dismissed. And Billy's confused if Hogman didn't kill Flapper, who did? And Matt says, I don't know, Billy, but whoever it is, the law will find him and punish him. It always does. At this point, Hogman walks up to him and says, I'm off the hook now, right, Murdoch? Yes, you are. No chance of another trial? None at all. Great. So I might as well tell you I'm guilty as sin.
Whoa.
Double jeopardy. He can't get convicted again for
Yeah,
that.
he can't go for the same. You cannot be taken to court for the same crime.
Yeah. Matt looks crushed. And besides, even if he could,
he literally
it's attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
He can't say anything. And Hogman just slips a wad of bills into Matt's coat as a way of saying thank you.
Wow.
Daredevil finds Hogman that night and tackles him and beats him up. And
Unsurprisingly.
he says he wants to beat him up. You've tricked an honest man into helping you, driven a weaker man to near suicide, convinced an innocent child that there's no law, no hope. But Hogman says, I know who you are, Daredevil. Not like Matt Murdock.
Nah.
Oh, God, I know. He says, you're a regular bleeding heart. You wouldn't punch a guy out just because you feel like, especially a guy with such a delicate heart condition that he needs a pacemaker. And Matt's like, nah, that would be why.
A pacemaker, the ultimate enemy of Daredevil.
That would do the job. Hogman gets a call that night, though. And this actually these two moments happen simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read one and then the other. Hogman gets a call. Someone saw him kill Marky. It's Billy O'Corin.
Ooh.
And he wants money.
The kid wants money?
Kid wants money.
Dude, the kids in Hell's Kitchen. Hard kids.
Hogman and his associates drive to the school to meet him to close that loose end. Meanwhile, Daredevil drops by Billy's house. What's going on? And the parents are yelling, Billy took Dad's gun again. Daredevil realizes where Billy must be going.
Right.
I mean, the first place he can look is the school. At the school, Billy's there pointing a gun at Hogman, planning to make him pay for his sister. Hogman's pal Smitty shows up with a gun, but the Punisher drops in and kills Smitty.
Wow.
Hogman disarms Billy, takes the gun, puts it to Billy's head. The Punisher immediately shoots Hogman in the hand, shoots him in the knee. That guy's not at all a threat to the Punisher.
Right.
Or to Billy at this point. But before Punisher can finish the job, Daredevil drops in. And, Punisher opens fire, and Daredevil jumps around and jumps past the swing set. But then he stops, and he just sort of stands still and leans against the wall. He says, "You've killed dozens of criminals in your time, but you've never harmed an innocent. You won't kill me." Punisher holsters his pistol, says, "All right, truce. I'll settle up with the Hogman later." And Daredevil picks up Smitty's gun and says, no truce. You're going to jail." Punisher has this look in his eyes like, "You wouldn't." And they start to draw, but Daredevil shoots Punisher in the shoulder.
Whoa.
Billy picks up the gun and points it into Hogman's face. Daredevil tells him not to throw his life away.
Don't shoot people. Again, not like me. I give really bad ironic advice.
But he didn't kill that guy.
I know that.
This would kill this guy.
I know.
And he says, "Look, we got him." And a few days later, Hogman's convicted of second-degree murder for the death of Mary Elizabeth O'Corn.
Wow.
After the trial, Matt and Billy are speaking on the courthouse steps, and Billy asks if he did the right thing. Can Matt promise Hogman will go to jail and that he'll stay there? And Matt says, "We're only human, Billy. We can be weak. We can be evil. The only way to stop us from killing each other is to make rules, laws, and stick to them. They don't always work, but mostly they do. And they're all we've got." Billy says, "Yeah, I guess. Look, I'll see you around, okay?" And Billy walks off into the streets alone.
Man.
And at night, at Glen Industries, Heather logs into the computer and looks up Atreus Plastic, that company that she had no knowledge of. Turns out they are a subsidiary, and they make high-intensity plastic explosives.
Whoa.
Don't date Daredevil. Just
don't do it.
Whatever is up with your past, you don't know about it. Your company turns out to make plastic explosives or whatever.
It just happens.
These things happen, man. I'm sorry. They weren't making them before, but then you met Daredevil, and now that's a part of your life.
Yep.
That's the way it is.
That's the start of the snowball. It's at the top of the hill. Man, great comic. I've heard a lot of great things about Frank Miller's Daredevil, and this definitely has directed me. I will have to check it out.
It's kind of like his claim to fame.
Yeah, for sure. And if it got him to do Dark Knight Returns, which obviously we've said is amazing, then I'm in.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys. Well, that was our main segment, and that'll take us to our game, Super-Mundane. All right, this is Super-Mundane. This is the game where I will name a mundane task, activity, or job, and Mike and I will have to decide which hero of Marvel or DC would be the best and which hero of Marvel or DC would be the worst at doing this specific activity. So, Mike, for this Super-Mundane, who would be the best and who would be the worst home security specialist? Somebody that you're just like, okay, I don't know who's coming after me, or maybe I just want to, I've built this nice home in the suburbs and I just want to protect myself. Who do we hire as our superhero to protect our homes? So,
wow, there's a lot of really good options.
First thought right away is obviously Iron Man. First, just because all the robotics and an Iron Man suit would be pretty good protection. Hey, when you go to sleep, just sleep in this Iron Man suit.
That doesn't seem practical.
Not very, but...
Okay, here's the names that are coming to mind right off the bat. Batman.
Yeah, well, yes.
Punisher.
Yep.
It would be pretty lethal, but it's an option. Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, and Beast.
Beast? That's interesting.
Beast feels like a good bet because he builds danger rooms.
Yeah, he does build danger rooms.
And he builds all the danger room sort of security things around the base, around the I called it a base, the school.
Mike.
That wasn't wrong.
Mike, it's a base. It's a base for a paramilitary organization.
That is 100% true.
That happens to have classes from time to time.
Yep. He is what I'm leaning towards right now.
Well, here's my one argument about Beast is the X-Men school has been destroyed so many times.
Ooh, yep, point.
It's been destroyed so many times. The security systems are not that great.
That's a really good point.
They only go so far.
Touche.
I'm trying to think. I have to, and I want to lean a little bit more towards Batman, not just because I love that character, but the Batcave very rarely has ever been penetrated. Now, of course, you're going to penetrate the Batcave in some issues of Batman because it's there, and writers are like, why not? Nobody's done it yet. I'll penetrate the Batcave.
Yeah.
But in more times than not...
We probably shouldn't be using the word penetrate as much as we are.
Right. Not disable or enter the Batcave.
Infiltrate the
Batcave.
Yeah, that works.
As often as they have the X-Men school.
Yeah. Or the Baxter Building.
Or Stark Industries.
Oh boy, Stark
Or the
Industries.
Avengers Mansion.
Yeah,
or
that was
literally
my next
every
point.
other place. Every one of those organizations. Even the Watchtower, if we go to DC, the Watchtower's been... I know Prometheus, which is a villain nobody remembers, but I do.
He's in Midnighter right now.
And he's in Tower of Babel. Oh, he's in Midnighter?
Yeah.
Oh, I like Prometheus, but nobody really... He's in purple and he has a white cape and he has a weird helmet. helmet. Anyways,
He's got computer brain powers.
he has computer brain powers.
Which sounds dumber than it is.
It's pretty close. But I still like him. But yeah, I mean, all of those places have been very consistently infiltrated. While the Batcave, yes, it has the advantage of being underground and nobody knows it's really there. You know, there's a bunch of high-tech security systems to keep people from getting in the Batcave.
Yeah, it's true.
Also, like, you know, all your security systems could look like bat symbols, which is cool.
Or a giant dinosaur.
Oh my god.
Because remember when the Court of Owls broke into the Batcave?
Yes, and the giant dinosaur is an actual defense system.
Yeah, it is.
A guy who not only takes pride in his work, but can also make a dinosaur defense system. I mean, what's not to love there?
And he's got a robot suit mech thing.
Yeah, just in there.
Like an Iron Man.
And I mean, Batman is known for thinking of everything.
That's his deal.
I mean, I did a main segment on this show where Batman fooled not only like time, but the space devil. Like, you know, he's Batman. He's going to make a pretty good home security system.
Yeah.
And more likely than not, almost every other superhero's identity has been more exposed than Batman. I mean, he's pretty good.
Yeah, even right now, Clark Kent is outed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, he does a pretty good job of keeping things safe.
That's true.
And he's going to prepare you for a lot of stuff. And fun fact, now you can have a fun T-Rex in your backyard for your kids. Little do they know that it's filled with, you know, smoke gas and lasers and stuff.
Sure.
So, I mean, hey, what's not to love about that?
I mean, it's Batman for sure. It's gotta be.
It's gotta be Batman.
I can't think of anyone who's better at that specific thing.
Yeah, it's gotta be him.
I know that we had a rule early on that we try not to use Batman for everything because he's the best at everything.
But this is kind of the
This
best
is
one.
his thing.
Yeah, this is kind of his jam.
And everyone else is kind of bad at it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Iron Man would be cool, but I just...
People break into the Stark Mansion
they break into that stuff all
with
the time.
alarming regularity.
Yeah, they do. I wanted to say almost like Ant-Man because he's really good at security systems. Scott Lang is really good at creating security systems because he breaks into them a lot and he breaks into them very easily. There's actually a story of him testing Stark's security system and being their head security officer because he's so good at breaking them. Mm-hmm. But Batman's probably the better.
Between him and Scott Lang, 100%.
Yeah. So if Batman is our best, who is our worst
That's what I'm
at
trying to
defining
figure
home
out.
security systems?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like it's got to be somebody who you'd be like, yeah, it's probably good, but like they would either do it terribly or they would be too confident to, like, you know, protect it because they don't have to deal with dangers as much. I mean, Superman would be bad. He would be bad at it just because he's invulnerable and he's like, well, just make your house in the North Pole and no one will ever find it.
With a key that no one can lift.
With a key that no one can lift, guys.
People did break into the
they do break
Fortress
into the Fortress of
Solitude.
Solitude.
It's pretty often.
Yeah. It is just an ice fortress.
But I feel like we can do worse.
Of course. You know what? I feel like Doctor Strange would be bad. Now, let me pitch you why I think Doctor Strange would be a bad home security specialist.
Okay.
Because Doctor Strange works in very chaotic protection spells. I feel like he has powerful protection spells if monsters or demons or things were after you. But I feel like just like burglars and stuff, like they might fall into a hell dimension or something.
I think you think of Doctor Strange as more careless than I do.
Maybe. Well, right now he's currently portrayed as not careless, but he certainly has too much crazy stuff in his house. Now, this isn't his house.
Yeah.
But, you know, okay, maybe not. Doctor Strange might not be the worst.
I think we're on the right track, though, because we want someone like that who is cocky mixed with not really caring about what happens to you.
Yeah. Now, stay with me here. What
Okay.
about Hawkeye? Now, Hawkeye, because Hawkeye would, kind of take that job. He's an Avenger.
Sure.
He's got street cred.
He needs money.
He needs money.
I mean, start there.
Yeah. And, he's got the confidence to be like, yeah, I could, home security this house. I'm kind of like an assassin or whatever.
He has, burn notice level skills, probably.
Yeah, of course.
I would assume.
But,
I don't know why I would assume that. He wasn't a spy. He was a carnival folk, but whatever.
Hawkeye in his current run is, beautifully described as just a complete and utter garbage fire of a person who screws up constantly. So, I mean, he can't even protect his apartment building
that was the whole arc of that 20-issue series, was just protecting his apartment building from gangsters.
Yeah.
And when you have to spend 20 issues doing that, or 28 or whatever it was, there is a problem.
It's not a great security specialist.
Yeah. Your security answer is, I have a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And I have to stand on our fire escape.
And occasionally a pizza dog.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I would love for Hawkeye to protect me.
Sure.
But Again, because it doesn't have to be someone that builds tech. Batman doesn't need to be there to protect your home. He might just build security systems to do that for you. But Hawkeye will probably have to be there. And Hawkeye is, in so many ways, inept sometimes.
And irresponsible is a better word, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, Hawkeye's pretty bad. Is he the worst, though?
He's pretty worst at a lot of things.
He is.
This new version of Hawkeye, who's just sort of a flaming mess.
Which I love.
He's fantastic.
Oh, my God. I love how bad he is at things.
I don't know how much worse we're going to get than him.
You know what? Maybe Hawkeye is the best answer.
Hawkeye's a pretty bad at things guy.
You know what? I think it is Hawkeye. Hawkeye is definitely probably the worst. He's just got a bow and arrow and way too much confidence.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, you'd be so pumped. You'd be like, guys, I got an Avenger. I know, like, that one dude's been sending me those weird letters and telling me about taking over the world and stuff. But, like, dude, I got an Avenger protecting my house.
It's a weird scenario.
It's a weird scenario I've created myself.
Go ahead.
But I've got an Avenger protecting me. It's like, oh, who'd you get? Oh, some badass guy I've heard about named, like, Hawkeye. That sounds so cool. And it's just, a beat up guy showing up on your doorstep with
perpetual bruises and broken ribs.
Bruises and band-aids on his nose.
Yeah.
And a bow and arrow. And that's about it.
And a six-pack.
Yeah.
Which is for him.
Yeah. And a dog.
And he's just going to watch cartoons with your kids.
Yeah.
In the meantime.
Oh, man. I mean, he'd eventually get the job done, but it
would take 30 issues.
It would take 30 issues, and everyone you'd totally lose your house.
It'd be very bloody.
Oh,
well earned.
Yeah.
And if you were just watching it happen, like a reader, it'd be incredibly fulfilling.
It'd be great.
It'd be fantastic.
It's honestly one of your favorite comic runs of all time.
It could be up on that list for sure.
Yeah, but if you were in that house, no, it's horrible.
Horribly unfortunate.
Horrible experience for you. Anyways, so definitively best for home security is going to be Batman. Worst is definitely going to be Hawkeye. So guys, that was episode 51 of Because Comics. We'll be posting a new episode every other week. If you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, we'll head over to partialarc.com. That's ARC with a C. Of course, you can email us any questions at becausecomics@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, all at Partial Arc. And be sure to check out more content from our comic boy wonder Mike Christensen at partialarc.com, where he writes articles every Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks for listening, and remember...
I didn't care for Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice.
Did you, though? Did you not?
But here's the thing.
Okay.
If you did, that's okay.
That's totally fine.
Like what you like. This is the thing that, like, the world is not binary.
It's not.
Just because I didn't like something doesn't mean that no one's allowed to. It means that it was not what I wanted from that movie. We've spoken to that at, I think, some length with my passive-aggressive pull list. But if you did, that's okay. Like what you like.
Because comics.